Grandparents' Day, of course, it made me reflect on some things in my life. I actually had gone out and one of the things we picked up from the pre-sale was a file cabinet full of papers. Yes, it was very heavy. But as I was going through that, I'd been out there for quite a while, and I started to go through it, and I just wanted to make sure there was nothing that came out of someone who had passed. So I wanted to make sure there was nothing permanent, something that would cause issue for the family or whatnot. And so I started going through these files, and there was check stubs from 1970. This one up here. It's like check stubs from 1970. I'm just going to grab this mic. There we go. All right. So it was like check stubs from 1970-ish in that area. Pay stubs from, I think, the late 80s. And I started to reflect as I went further down in the pile of stuff. I came across some family pictures. And I started thinking about this certain family. They were not necessarily into church or into family of believers where this came from. I started thinking about the legacy that was left in this certain house, and was thinking about my own grandparents. And I remember going through, before my grandmother passed, we had sat down with some pictures, and I said, Grandma, you need to tell me who these people are. Because I never met them. I don't know who they are. I know that there is somebody that is related to us in some way or another. Because I can kind of see a family resemblance, some facial features, but I want to know who they are. And so I sat down with the family pictures, and we went through those. And unfortunately, this family of pictures that I saw out here, they were no way to lead them to. There was nobody in the family lineage. That's why we ended up with most of the stuff in the house. And I thought more about legacy and what that legacy meant. Think about all the different activities that we did together with grandmas and grandpas. One particular activity that my grandfather and I would do when I was little, and my maternal grandmother and grandfather would watch us a lot. When my brothers and I were not quite in school yet. And so I remember sitting around a table, now don't say gross yet. We would sit around a table and Grandpa would get out a loaf of bread. And we'd get a big white ceramic bowl, about this big at the time, but it was about this big. And he'd break up a piece of bread and tear it into pieces and put it in the bowl. And then he'd get out the gallon of milk. And he'd pour the milk on that until it just not quite covered the bread. And then he would get this ceramic flour-painted sugar bowl, and he would take a spoon and start scooping into the sugar bowl 2 or 3 scoops of sugar. I know some of y'all look at me like crazy. I promise you, don't laugh at me. But we would have, that was a special treat for us. We would have between meals. That's what my grandfather actually ate. He would tell me later on, that's what they would actually have 4 meals when there was nothing else around. And Grandma always got on because I would put a single spoon of sugar on there, and Grandma would typically be over at the sink washing dishes or something like that, and she'd look over and Grandma would be like, "You can't have so much sugar." And Grandma would be like, "Don't do that to him." But I always snuck an extra spoonful of sugar in there, and Grandma always laughed about it. So that was a special memory we had. So I thought about how much they sacrificed for us and how much that we had because of their sacrifice, what they gave up, what they wanted us to be able to experience, to participate in, the different trips that they never took growing up, that they took us on. And I was very thankful for that. I was very blessed to have that experience. But I think about these things, and we all have times in our life when we reflect on things of our past. The trips, the conversations, the moments of love. And I thought about those good moments I had. But then I also thought for a moment that not all these things that happened were pleasant. Not everyone has those special moments with grandparents. Not everyone has those moments, even sometimes in all parts of their life. So family fights and absentee parents and abusive situations surround us today and plague our society. I realize that each of those are good or could be bad, and there are some good moments that they make us who we are, though. They talk to us, they speak to us, they strengthen us in those moments that are negative. We all have a legacy that we will leave behind. You guys know that, right? As I was thinking more about this concept of legacy, many of you have actually shared your moments with me about your past, and I think that we fail to effectively understand something very key, that we are creating a legacy each and every day. Has anyone thought about that? Every day that you're alive, you are writing history. You are creating a legacy for your family. See, I realize that Jesus understood this ideal in his example on how he lived his life on earth for us to follow. So I started thinking more about this legacy that Jesus had for us and what he wants us to do and the power of a legacy. See, God knows that we will all leave a legacy behind. He wants us to have a legacy that will be one that leads the way for future generations, one that is great, one that sets an example for not only our great-grandkids, but our great-great-grandkids. People that we will never, ever meet. Think about that, what will happen here. I think about what we can look back, and someday, I want my great-great-great-grandkids look back and say, this is what Grandpa Nathan said. Oh, that sounds weird. But look what he did. But this is what happens. I found out on this most recent trip home that in my lineage, I thought I was the first one to go into ministry. But come to find out, my great-great-great-grandfather was not in ministry, but he knew the Bible well enough he could preach for a pastor when they were out of town in the Log Cabin Church. I think more about those moments. I think about this legacy that God calls us to. And Joshua talks to us about a legacy, about what we as people, as Christians, should leave as our legacy wherever we're at. And so let's read Joshua chapter 4. We'll start with 1 through 4, and then we'll finish through all the way through verse 7. It starts off and it says this in Joshua here. When the whole nation had finished crossing the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, choose 12 men from among the people, one from each tribe, and tell them to take up 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, from right where the priests are standing, and carry them over with you and put them down at the place where you will stay tonight. So Joshua called together the 12 men he had appointed from the Israelites, one from each tribe. A powerful moment here, just a quick backstory here. They carried the Ark of the Covenant, and literally the water had parted for a second time as the Ark crossed over through the Jordan River. And in that point, this is where Joshua was being told, take the stones from the bottom of the river. They were dry, right, from everything we can tell. So they picked up these, I see these 12 guys picking up these huge boulders from the bottom of the Jordan. And so the story goes on. It says this, and said to them, go before the ark of the Lord your God into the middle of the Jordan, each of you take up a stone on his shoulder according to the number of the tribes of Israelites, to serve as a sign among you. In the future, when your children ask you, what do these stones mean? Tell them that the flow of the Jordan was cut off before the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord. When it crossed the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. These stones are to be a monument to the people of Israel forever. That's a powerful moment. That would be a powerful legacy to remember. In my Bible, I wrote from a previous study the visual example that this would actually represent. The legacy that they are leaving that is being set. Here they're saying exactly what to do. Tell them that the flow, tell them. These stones are from out there in the water. I think about the Mississippi River. Someday, if I lived around the Mississippi River, I crossed it. But you see how big that river is. And you go to somebody and they see this pile of rocks, and they were to say, yeah, these rocks were in the middle of the river right down there. But when God came through, things changed. Look what my God did. Think about that legacy, that ability to tell and to ask the questions as to what's going on and what happened. And of course, these stones were set as a sign to all that God is able. As I reflected more on this verse in my day memories, I wondered, what does my reminders look like? What kind of stones have been set in place for me to look at, for us to look at, to be reminded of things that are going on, of things that have happened in the past? I realized the stones of my life, my legacy, should mirror that of Christ. Your life should mirror the same way. Everything that we do, everything that we encounter, everything that we go through should mirror the life of Christ, so that the stones that we leave behind for our kids and our grandkids and our great-grandkids will be one that they can look back and say, look what my God can do. Look what God did. And be the example to generations to come. This is what God has called us to do, to make this. If we're building our legacy today, we still have time to change. So many people say, oh, I've lived my life, I can't do anything, I might as well just give up. That's what Satan's trying to tell you to do. But I tell you, every day you write your legacy. So that means if you haven't done it in the past, don't listen to Satan's lies. Don't get caught up in the nonsense of all that. You have to begin your legacy today. I think of the stories that Grandma would talk about the legacy that she would have, about the times through the depression she went through, and how those moments defined literally the rest of her life. The one thing that she said one time is she didn't know when she was going through that if it would ever end, if they would ever make it, because of how bad it was. But she always talked about how much she made it, how they made it through, and all the things that they benefited from that time. So I thought more about that. I was thinking about what Jesus would have us do, what he would have us study. So today let's look at Jesus and see how we can live so that our legacy can be one that God would shine down upon. And that someday your great-grandkids, some of you have them now, some of you, your great-great-grandkids, can look back and say, this is an example for us. Look what happened in this world. And so let's look at the first thing on your notes there. Number one was Jesus was a humble man. His birth from humble beginnings in a manger. When we think about that, what he led the way with, this was part of his legacy. The beginning of his legacy was the humbleness. John chapter 8, 41 talks more about his humbleness. It says this, you are doing the works of your own father. We are not illegitimate children, they protested. The only father we have is God himself. Let's look at that verse for a second. I want to make sure there's no point. Here, they were claiming that Jesus was an illegitimate child, that he did not know who his father was. Earthly father, because they did not understand. But he had humble beginnings. He remained humble even through everything that went on. His infancy, of course, an attempt was made on his life. And some blamed him for the death of many people. But humility continued all his life. Who was selected to follow and take up the gospel? The unexpected. The humble, the down and out, the ones that were not the professionals. God uses every one of us, even the most humble of people. I think about the ultimate in humbleness is that he left glory to leave a legacy of glory for us. In doing this, we have to step away from our own idea of what a legacy should be and turn to him in humility for his resources so his legacy can be lived out in us. It's one of the probably the most amazing things that I thought about. I've been processing a couple weeks ago. I heard somebody say about, are we, basically the concept of, are we living to die or have we already died? I'm going to explain that for a minute, because it so impacted me. Because if we're Christians, we have died to ourselves. We've experienced death. So many people, so many of us live to that point of death. We're living to that point of dying. But no, if we have Christ, we have already died to ourselves, our sin, our past. And we're living alive in the life that He wants us to live. We can live going forward. We can live victoriously knowing that everything is going to be good. Doesn't matter what it looks like. We can live as Christ wants us to live, in complete humility, to where He wants us to go. The second point that I want to point out about Jesus and for us to live and as a legacy is Jesus was truly a dependent man. Now this sounds bad when you first think about it, when you first understand that word. But I was thinking about this, that Jesus was completely dependent upon His Father. All throughout Scripture, we start the New Testament just reading all. The stories about how He lived and when He lived here. He was completely dependent upon His Father. John 15, 18 through 25 says this: "If the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. If you belonged to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. That is why the world hates you. Remember that I told you, a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will persecute you also. If they obeyed my teaching, they will obey yours also. They will treat you this way because of my name, for they do not know the one who sent me. If I had not come and spoken to them, they would not be guilty of sin. But now they have no excuse for their sin. Whoever hates me hates my Father as well. If I had not done among them the works no one else did, they would not be guilty of sin. As it is, they have seen, and yet they have hated both me and my Father. But this is to fulfill what is written in their law. They hated me without reason." We think about this, how through that moment, how that explanation, how He was completely dependent on His Father. He keeps referring to His Father, and that's God. And I was thinking about in the moments of other situations where He was dependent upon His Father, in moments of temptation. This is a famous verse that we all know about from Luke chapter 4, verse 1 through 13. And Jesus, here goes, Jesus, full of the Holy Spirit, left the Jordan and was led by the Spirit into the wilderness, where for 40 days He was tempted by the devil. He ate nothing during those days, and at the end of them He was hungry. The devil said to Him, "If you are the Son of God, tell the stone to become bread." Jesus answered, "It is written, man shall not live by bread alone." The devil led Him up to a high place and showed Him in an instant all the kingdoms of the world. And He said to him, "I will give you all their authority and splendor. It has been given to me, and I can give it to anyone I want to. If you worship me, it will all be yours." Jesus answered, "It is written, worship the Lord your God and serve Him only." The devil led Him to Jerusalem and had Him stand on the highest point of the temple. "If you are the Son of God," He said, "throw yourself down from here. For it is written, He will command His angels concerning you to guard you carefully. They will lift you up in their hands so that you will not strike your foot against the stone." And Jesus answered, "It is said, do not put the Lord your God to test." When the devil had finished all his tempting, He left him until an opportune time. See, Jesus modeled how to get through temptation by going through temptation. By being there, paying the price. Being offered everything this world has to offer, and yet turning it down for God. He was truly dependent upon Him. And Jesus is truly our model to live by in every aspect of our life. And as Jesus was dependent upon so much of the Holy Spirit, so we too have access to the Holy Spirit, so we can live in the fullness of the Holy Spirit. I was just talking about this with the membership group this morning, about how we have the power to choose over sin. We have the power to make choices as to what God wants us to do and live in the fullness of the Holy Spirit. We have to be dependent upon Him. I think the problem sometimes is we are too much dependent on ourselves. and therefore we stumble very, very easily. So I'm reminded that as Jesus was a dependent man, we should be dependent on God. The third point I want to make is Jesus was a proven man. Mark chapter 1, verse 12 and 13 says this: when the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the elders looked for a way to arrest him, because they knew he had spoken the parable against them, but they were afraid of the crowd, so they left him and went away. Later they sent some of the Pharisees and Herodians to Jesus to catch him in his words. See, Jesus was always trying to trip him up, to put him into a predicament. You ever have people in your life that way? Maybe at work? Jesus was a proven man. They could not find anything against him. He wrestled with sin in a deep and personal way. He went back and forth. Hebrews chapter 2, verse 17 and 18 says this: for this reason he had to be made like them, fully human in every way, in order that he might become a merciful and faithful high priest in service to God, and that he might make atonement for the sins of the people. Because he himself suffered when he was tempted, he is able to help those who are being tempted. He was proven. He went through the fire. He paid the price, and he was truly proven that we could make it. He's there. He shows us that we can make it through. We can go through the fires and still come out on the other side. I think about this, that his suffering through those moments in a lot of these situations was so great that even angels had to attend to him. I don't know that I've been tested that far yet. I know I've had people help me. But has our suffering been so great that angels had to attend to us? Probably not. We're going to know that Jesus shows that we can turn from sin's desires to Christ's humility, that we might face suffering. Well, let me rephrase that: we will face suffering. And it's not going to get any better as Christians. It's only probably going to get worse, but because Jesus wrote it, we can believe it. In the Bible here, that it is written that we can make it through, and we can go through it, we can be proven at the end. The other thing, the next point, I found out that Jesus was a focused man. His ministry focus was redemption and communication. That's what he spoke about, that's what he taught about, that's what he went about, were those two concepts: redemption and communication. He was determined to go to the cross and invest, and so he invested in 12 so that the love would go out to the next generation. We too must focus on what is set before us. Focus on that. I think about this. Many of you, how many of you have ever seen an Amish horse and carriage? Oh, good. I was a little worried there. Have you ever noticed the horse in the front of an Amish horse and carriage? The horse has blinders on, right? Most of you know what those are for. To keep that horse from being distracted from things to the side, or being scared of things that could come up and cause it to jump and run and bolt. I've gone by horses and carriages and not scared the horse because he can't see what's going on and he won't see where it's at. So I think about how that tells us to stay focused on what's before us. Not worry about what's behind us or what's even beside us sometimes. We have to focus on what's before us. And if we focus on the cross, everything else becomes moot. You just take a moment and just look up at that cross behind you. I guarantee you, if you're staring, you're focusing on that cross, you don't see the things that are going on inside you right now. You don't see the people beside you. You don't see the things even in front of you and below you. You're focusing right here, and so you only have a certain limited vision about this far. When we focus on the cross, everything else becomes mute. Anyway, the fifth point. Back to the points. Jesus was a patient man. Whoa. They do this, right, ladies? Jesus was a patient man. Jesus was patient even when the disciples brought him to the edge of frustration. Thought about this level of patience. Don't ask to have patience because you will go through the fire. Okay? You all know that and probably made that mistake a time or two. Mark chapter 8, verse 14 to 21 talks about one of these moments that Jesus was in the middle of, dealing with us, humans, and patience. It says this, the disciples had forgotten to bring the bread, except for one loaf they had with them in the boat. Be careful, Jesus warned them. Watch out for the yeast of the Pharisees and that of Herod. They discussed this with one another and said, it is because we have no bread. That's why he said this. Aware of their discussion, Jesus asked them, why are you talking about having no bread? Do you still not see or understand? Are your hearts hardened? Ooh, not going to be in that boat. Do you have eyes but fail to see and ears but fail to hear? And don't you remember? Thanks. When I broke the 5 loaves for the 5,000, how many basketfuls of pieces did you pick up? 12, they replied. And when I broke the 7 loaves for the 4,000, how many basketfuls of pieces did you pick up? And they answered, 7. He said to them, do you still not understand? Again, I would not want to be in that boat that day. Having to hear that because Jesus was really talking about how frustrating it is that we don't understand. Ever sometimes just say, you big silly oaf? Why did you see that? Because we all know that hindsight is 20/20, right? Hindsight is better. Okay, 20/20. We all see this. Sometimes, man, Jesus is trying to teach us. He's in the middle of this, trying to talk to us. But he was patient with everyone that he encountered, even his chosen ones, and he was literally doing the miracles in front of them. Another example of this, Matthew 17, verse 17 and 18, he says this, you unbelieving and perverse generation, Jesus replied, how long shall I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring the boy to me. Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of the boy, and he was healed at that moment. Wow. You know, I realized, I looked at that statement, and Jesus stayed here as long as he had to. As long as he needed to make the point he needed to make. He stayed with his disciples to the very end. When we are patient with others, Jesus can be seen. Every single one that hears my voice right now has a story about patience. Some of you all smile this morning. But we all have stories about patience. See, Jesus sometimes will put us in the middle of situations and scenarios so that we can have our patience tested. Do I like it? No. Can I look back and realize how God used that to strengthen me? Yep. So sometimes in the moments we have to look and say, you know, okay, God, what are you teaching me here? Where am I supposed to learn? What lesson am I supposed to learn? Am I supposed to learn patience? I think I got it. I can move on now. I've had many of those conversations, and most of you have as well. Okay? Because you all have faced, we all have faced things. And the 6th point here is Jesus was an obedient man. Jesus always said yes when everything in him, for sure, his humanness wanted to say no. Hebrews 5:7 through 10 talks about this. It says, during the days of Jesus' life on earth, he offered up prayers and petitions with fervent cries and tears to the one who could save him from death. And he was heard because of his reverent submission. Son, though he was, he learned obedience from what he suffered. And once made perfect, he became the source of eternal salvation for all who obeyed him, and was designated by God to be the high priest in the order of Melchizedek. Wow. He was obedient all the way to the cross. We know this. If you've been in church in the time, you've heard it. He was obedient to whatever his Father told him. He cried out in the garden. It would have done anything else if it would have provided the same result. But guess what? We all know this. He went to the cross for each and every one of us, as the Father had it willed to be. And how often, I had to ask myself this question, how often do we insist on our own way? How often do we demand that God answer our prayers in our own manner so that we may receive what we think we need. And when God is trying to teach us in the moment of what we need to go through. See, only through obedience will we see Jesus in everything. See, I replied this, your life legacy can be a legacy of yes to the cross and no to self. But we must do what Jesus tells us in every aspect. And even some of them coming in this morning, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. Because as we already read in the scripture, the world's going to not know us. The world's going to hate us. Because they don't understand. I've experienced that the last couple of weeks. And it's not fun. But guess what? Serve God. Focus on Him, and everything else goes away. Doesn't mean to be silly, but it means to be focused on Him. Last point, as I was thinking about this example of the legacy that we must leave, and Jesus was a faithful man. John 17, 1-5 says this. After this, Jesus went around in Galilee. He did not want to go about in Judea because the Jewish leaders there were looking for a way to kill him. But when the Jewish festival of tabernacles was near, Jesus' brothers said to him, leave Galilee and go to Judea, so that your disciples there may see the works you do. No one who wants to become a public figure acts in secret. Since you are doing these things, show yourself to the world. For even his own brothers did not believe him. In all of this, in this concept here of this question, I was thinking how much that glory meant to him. It meant nothing. He wanted to get out there so that his Father could be glorified. He was faithful in every aspect. He never once looked back, like we are so guilty of saying, oh, if only when. How many of us are guilty of saying, coming across one of those pictures and thinking of a happier time and probably wishing we were back in that happier moment. But then I thought, you know what? Those happy moments are good memories. They remind me of what I've come from, where I've been through, and what God can do. Just like those stones sitting on the edge of that riverbank where they stay for the night, and we go back to, I thought, okay, those are the stones. Those are the moments. Those are the things that I can remember, the good times when I can see what God did. And I thought, how many more times the Israelites, if they were standing there at that moment, they had no idea what was getting ready to happen to them. No idea the times that they'd have to be reminded, hey, let's go back to that pile of 12 stones and talk about that. But we all need those 12 stones in our life. Those times when we remember, look what my God can do. Look what God did. I don't know why we're going through this moment right now. I don't know what I have to deal with in my life right now. It just seems like everything's falling apart. But you see that pile of 12 stones? That's what my God can do. You know, I even look back as I was thinking about legacy this week. I was thinking of in the last 5 years here. And I thought about the legacy and how God is working here. And how a lot of you weren't sitting there 5 years ago. And how you're changing your legacy of being here today. Some of you were. And you've been a part of that legacy growing in the next phase of whatever God's taking us and what we're doing. I think about what God has done. And sometimes I've questioned, God, what are you doing here? Am I really being obedient to where you want me to be? He says, just focus on me. Focus on the cross. And I'll take you where I want you to go. Hard, is it? No. But if we follow the life of Jesus, if we see these points here, if we're obedient, if we're faithful, if we go through these things that God wants us to go through, you will be proven. You will be where you need to be. You will hear what you need to hear. You will say what you need to say. And God will use you for amazing things. And someday your legacy will be looked back upon. Because look what that person did. Look what Grandma did. Look what Grandpa did. And someday someone will say, what an awesome example foundation that we needed to have to go forward. See, God claimed his legacy through faithfully following God. Or Jesus did claim his legacy through faithfully following God. Those stones stood to prove that. So our legacy of faithfulness to God must be lived out in this moment here today, in what he has for us. So I challenge us today to live a life worthy of a legacy. Live a life worthy of 12 stones in Ohio. Live a life that takes you through the Jordans of your life. And I ask myself a couple other questions. Are we living a legacy of his glory or ours? Too many people in this world, and I've begun to see it in politics recently, they live a legacy of glory of their own. My prayer is that we don't do that. That we live a legacy that propels God forward. So that our kids, our grandkids, go forward in Christ. See, I read this week. It's the legacy we leave is the life we lead. Sorry, kind of grip around. It's not in your notes, so you can write it down if you want. It's an amazing quote. I can't remember who said it or where I read it. But it's the legacy we leave, it's the life we lead. That's for all of us, guys. That is true, guys. And the more I think about it, the more I think about how things are, you reflect on things in your life. And God wants you to leave a legacy that is worthy. So I ask us all, what will your legacy record? What will the 12 stones show? What will the stories be told about each and every one of us? Are they going to be ones of earthly things or of godly things? So I had asked some other questions. Do you need to make some things right with God and restore a legacy that points to God instead of yourself? So here at the end, we're going to sing a song. An old song that many of you may have heard. It's one that's been around for a while. So I invite you to stand. And maybe you need to come up. Maybe you need to make some things right. Maybe you need to say, I'm sorry for leading a life that's not what it used to be. Maybe my legacy's not right. And you need to come up and just say, God, I want you to help me with this. Get my life where it needs to be. The song is Old Rugged Cross. It's one that brings me back to a lot of things in my life that I've had to go through. Live the legacy that God wants you to. Don't leave today not where you need to be. Because you literally are writing your legacy in this moment. There may be a time where someday down the line you look back at this moment and say, you know what, that's the time my legacy changed. When I got right with God, I began to live for Christ. Let's sing this. If you want to come forward and pray, it's open. Come and pray. Father, as we are here today in your house, we thank you. We thank you that you've taken us, you've pulled us out of miry clay, that you have grace that is sufficient for all of us. We thank you for the cross. We thank you for the example of Jesus living in flesh as we lived, able to carry us through the roughest moments of life, as a demonstration to all of us to live a legacy worthy of following. Father, give us strength as we pass through the times of trial, the times of tribulation, the moments of question. Forgive us, Father, where we have gone astray and we need correction to get back in line. Help us, Father, to be reminded of the legacy. Someday that when our kids and grandkids look back on pictures of our life, let them see Jesus. Let them see commitment. Let them see obedience, God. Let our friends see that. Let our faithfulness be evident to all around us. Lord, let us each and every day live the legacy you've called us to in obedience to you. Father, we thank you for loving us where we're at. Carry us through this day and every day, living as you want us to live. We just love you, Lord, for everything that's going on. We give this time to you. In your name we pray. Amen.